Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website www.jollies.tm. It's your time to jump the line. Shop now at jollies.tm and have your items delivered in the comfort of your office. No more standing in line. No need to use your lunch hour to shop. Hassle-free shopping, safe and secure. Jollies.tm features rush delivery, 1 hour. In-store pickup, regular delivery, 5 p.m. Cut-off time, 4 p.m. It's your time to jump the line. Visit us at www.jollies.tm. Jollies Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
I woke up this morning feeling real stink. I had temptations to call it sick, but I end up in Jolly's Pharmacy. Great and down People Street, Jolly's fix up my immune system. Me feeling fit and strong, now I'm ready to work and take on any mission. If you see me again, Jolly's Pharmacy is number one, Jolly's working. We cater for everyone, Jolly's working. Boost up the immune system, Jolly's working. Yo, Dominic is the white water box. Whenever I'm in town and I'm feeling down, I head to Jolly's Pharmacy. They boost me up real quick. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Who say health cannot have vibes? Well, Jolly's Pharmacy is proving you otherwise. With Health Vibes every Wednesday morning on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Health Vibes, education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lango with co-hosts Jacinta Fagan Defoe and Trudy Kristen. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together every Wednesday, so be sure to tune in. Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
A pleasant good morning to you. It is just about 18 minutes after the hour of 10, and you are connected on Health Vibes, your very own health talk show, brought to you by the brand you trust the most, Jolly's Pharmacy. It is indeed a splendid day here in Dominica. The weather is quite sunny on the outside, a bit windy too, but I think most of us are quite appreciative of that type, the combination of the sun and the wind as well. This morning, it is sort of bittersweet for me. I lost one of my staff, that is one of my immediate staff that works in my department, the sales department, of which I manage here at Jolly's Pharmacy. And this was my merchandiser, Hermia Joseph. Many people would know Hermia, having worked at Ode Brisbane and so on before joining our team here at Jolly's. She joined us just after the hurricane. And Hermia really brought um, a difference to Jolly's. We've always said, as a manager at Jolly's, we've always said that to join the Jolly's team, you need to have a Jolly spirit. And she certainly epitomized that spirit. I mean, Hermia was I call her the ladies, she loved men. She preferred working with men every day. She always said that. She loved men. She loved, just having men conversation and chatting with men and, really sort of valuing men. Not that she did not have female friends and did not speak with female, but she always tend to have that rough and tumble type of nature. She would go to a shop as a merchandiser and just really bond with the merchants and have this conversation. You join Jollies as a young man, and she will come up to you and she will tell you how hot and handsome you are. And if she was older, if she was younger, she would date you. She was just that kind of funny person that really made the people enjoy her. She was extremely creative. You would look at our buildings, whether it's Christmas or Independence, and she would work tirelessly, relentlessly to ensure that we looked the part for Christmas and for Independence. We were well decorated. Um, as our merchandiser, she was very big on ensuring that our products were well placed and neatly placed, and the merchandising was always on point. She really brought a great teamwork into the team. She was big on teamwork. She would always boast me, and she would say to me, "I am the best supervisor she's ever had in her life." And whenever I would post a photo, she would be the first to say her most handsome supervisor. She really validated people. And even, when I went to see her at the hospital last Saturday, she really was in a bad shape. And I remember walking in there, and her sister said, look, your boss is there. And she looked at me. She couldn't speak, but her face, she smiled and it light up. And then afterwards, she dimmed out a bit because she was going in and out of consciousness, so to speak. But we loved Hermia deeply at Jolly's. We really tangibly loved her. We had a great connection with her. She became family to us. And even for me, I have not shed a tear, but I will tell you why I have not shed a tear. And the reason is not merely that I'm not hurting, I'm not saddened of her passing, but I could just hear her telling me, "What are you crying for now? Make yourself, celebrate me, have a party." She was that type of person. She would not want you to be having a pity party, a sad moment, thinking about her. She would tell you, celebrate her, celebrate what she stood for. She was about people. She was about unifying people. She was big on making sure that people were happy and people were content and people were comfortable in who they are and their space. Oh, when it comes to customer service, whoosh, she was superb. I mean, every quarter when I'm grading home here, customer service, customer care, 100%. It was just natural because she was very, very natural in the way that she dealt with customers. She would go out of her way to ensure that the customer got maximum service. And it wasn't merely just a service that was done because it's an obligation or because it's a rule, but it was a service that was ushered with care. And that service is one that every customer who dealt with her would have experienced and will certainly remember. When we posted her obituary on Monday, and I began reading the comments from, all walks of life, everybody. It's like it was almost like unanimous. Every person said the very same thing. A wonderful soul, a beautiful soul, somebody that you felt you almost knew all of your life by just having the very first conversation with Hermia. If you had interacted with Hermia in our perfume section, she liked that area. And maybe you're looking for a makeup or you're looking for a fragrance, she would begin to interact with you and almost getting to know you in order to recommend the exact perfect smell that would go with you. Truly, you had moments to interact with Hermia too.
Yes, yes, I've heard. Good morning, Carlton. Good morning to our listeners. I just, I was listening to you speak about her, and it's such a, wonderful way to remember somebody in the way that you have, in such a positive light. I have seen her, of course, in going to Jolly's, and the interaction, although brief, always what I remember is the smile, the
Yes.
presence, the bubbly personality. So is she someone, I'm sure, that anyone who has come into Jolly's and would have remembered interacting with her, anyone would feel that loss, that sense of loss that you describe, Carlton. And of course, the Jolly's family, I am sure they feel that loss. And it's interesting that you mentioned to work at Jolly's, you have to have the Jolly spirit. And I really do think that is truth. And the type of personality that she had really reflected what is the Jolly's tagline, the
Yes.
spirit, what the company stands for. And I do recall, her, and almost what you mentioned, this sort of I would say get it done type of way, this assuredness that she could assist if you did ask her for some form of assistance. So I remember her. She's not someone that I had much interaction with, but the times that I did see her on the floor, the interactions were always pleasant, always a joyful, bubbly sort of person.
One of the things too that I remembered so remarkably about Hermia was a sense of fashion. I always said, I like dressing too, and I would say to Hermia, for a big lady, a big person, you know how to put your clothes so well. You will never, just put anything on you, and you're not accessorating, and not making you. She was very elegantly well put together. I mean, when it comes to dinners and parties and that type of thing, Hilmia just knew how to rock a fashion. And I remember that very, very well. I remembered, she saying to me that she knows I love sunglasses. So she would say to me that when she has a family member who works in a sunglasses shop in the States, and she would tell me that when I go back up, I must bring a good Christy Dior or some good designer sunglasses. So she owes me my sunglasses. But she was, I mean, a remarkable person. In my 13 plus years at Jolly's, I think she was one of the shining lights that I will forever remember. And having worked in my department and having to report to me all the time, so I developed that real close bond with her, and she developed that very close bond with me. Hermia, you were a wonderful, wonderful light. And from all of us at Jolly's, we authentically loved you. And we know you had Jolly's back. You represented us with pride and honor, and you celebrated us. The brand Jolly's will certainly remember you, and definitely we will be there in large numbers to send you off next week, Thursday, at the People's Pentecostal Church, when you will be when you will be interned. But we love you, and I really want to play this song in honor of you. On behalf of all of us here at Jolly's Pharmacy, to her mother, her sisters, her brothers, her nephews, nieces, loved ones, many, many fans. I know she spoke a lot about her former boss, Jerry Brisbane. She always spoke highly about Mr. Brisbane at Odi Brisbane, and I'm sure that he really will have fond memories of her. We want to dedicate this song in the memory of our loved one, Hermia Joseph.
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me lie in pastures green. He leads me by the still, still waters. His goodness restores my soul. And I will trust in you. And I will trust in you. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me on. He guides my ways in righteousness, and He anoints my head with oil, and my cup it overflows with joy. I feast on His good delight. And I will trust in Jesus. And I will trust in you. For your answer mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me on. And though I walk the darkest path, I will not fear the evil one. For you are with me, and your rod and staff, for the comfort I need to know. And I will trust in you. And I will trust you, Lord. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me on. I will trust, and I will trust you. And I will trust you. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me on. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me on.
And of course, we are paying special tribute this morning here on Health Vibes to Hermia Joseph, staff member at Jolly's Pharmacy, who recently passed. And, remembering her life, of course, and all the positive attributes that she had and how she contributed so much to not only Jolly's Pharmacy, but to the country on a whole, and the memories people have of her. Of course, important at this time to remember all the good ways in which she touched lives. I see we have a caller. Let me take this call. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Judy. Good morning, Carlton.
Morning. Carlton stepped out. So,
I
yes.
realized that.
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
when I got the news, my condolences going out to the people, to her family, and the people of Jolly. When I got the news, somebody called me and the person tell me, so died. I said, I tell him, but you know her so well. She's so by Brisbane because my brothers work in the same department where she was working. But you see, the worst thing to know somebody and you don't know their name.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking to you nice, smiling, you don't know their name. Up to around the Christmas time, we were by Jolly, myself and a friend of mine from St. Croix. And she helped us because the lady wanted some lipstick. And she helped us. That's so nice. And she blew you. She also on a high. And we speaking. I wanted to find out when I got the picture on a WhatsApp. I said, wow. You mean Mamzella died, Anna? It was sad to know that she just left us. I didn't even realize she was sick. I know she was bigger in body before now, so she went down a little, but I didn't expect her to just leave us like that. Anyway, they said the Lord has given and the Lord has taken. Obia, wherever you are, may you rest in peace. In peace. Have a blessed morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you, caller. Yes, so we, of course, at this time, remembering Hermia Joseph, and condoling, of course, with her family, her friends, her co-workers at Jolly's Pharmacy, her previous co-workers at Odi Brisbane and Company Limited, and the people who knew her, loved her, and as the caller said, sometimes people maybe have interacted with with someone and don't even know their name, but the interaction and the impact that Hermia would have left on those she interacted with, they will truly remember that, so we just want to use this time briefly this morning to remember her and to express, of course, deepest condolences to those impacted significantly by by the loss that that her death has created. This morning, we will be continuing in the vein of dealing with loss, dealing with grief, and how can we navigate dealing with loss. It's something that everybody at one point or another will experience, grief, that is, and knowing what to do and how to navigate through that process is very critical. So that's the topic that we're going to take this morning. Mr. Lando has had to leave, unfortunately, so Carlton is not in studio right now. He has had to leave for another engagement, but I will be joined very briefly by someone who will help us through this topic of how to deal with grief. So I will take a short break. Let's take a short break. And when we come back, we will be continuing on this topic of grief and dealing with loss.
Who say health cannot have vibes? Well, Jolly's Pharmacy is proving you otherwise. With Health Vibes, every Wednesday morning on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Health Vibes, education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lango, with co-hosts Jacinta Fagan Defoe and Trudy Kristen. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together every Wednesday, so be sure to tune in. Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website, www.jollies.gm. It's your time to jump the line. Shop now at jollies.gm and have your items delivered in the comfort of your office. No more standing in line. No need to use your lunch hour to shop. Hassle-free shopping, safe and secure. Jollies.gm features rush delivery, 1 hour. In-store pickup, regular delivery, 5 p.m. Cut-off time, 4 p.m. It's your time to jump the line. Visit us at www.jollies.gm. Jollies Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Who say health cannot have vibes? Well, Jolly's Pharmacy is proving you otherwise. With Health Vibes, every Wednesday morning on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Health Vibes, education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lango, with co-hosts Jacinta Fagan Defoe and Trudy Kristen. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together every Wednesday, so be sure to tune in. Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website, www.jollies.gm. It's your time to jump the line. Shop now at jollies.gm and have your items delivered in the comfort of your office. No more standing in line. No need to use your lunch hour to shop. Hassle-free shopping, safe and secure. Jollies.gm features rush delivery, 1 hour. In-store pickup, regular delivery, 5 p.m. Cut-off time, 4 p.m. It's your time to jump the line. Visit us at www.jollies.gm. Jollies Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
And we are back. Of course, this is Health Vibes. This is Trudy here with you this morning, this Wednesday morning. Mr. Lando has stepped out, but we have begun Health Vibes this morning in tribute to Hermia Joseph, staff member of Jolly's Pharmacy, merchandiser for Jolly's Pharmacy, who has passed. And I just want to acknowledge our Facebook listeners. I notice we have quite a few people tuned in via Q95 FM's Facebook page who are extending condolences to the family of Hermia Joseph. And I just want to acknowledge, the condolence messages I see coming from Janice Sharpless. I see Eunice Simeon extending condolences, Peter Thomas extending condolences to the family, and Patricia Williams, our listeners on Facebook who have logged on just to show their grief and their condolences for the family and friends of Hermia who has passed. This morning, we're continuing the program. The loss of Hermia brings to mind loss that we have all experienced and we will all experience the loss of a loved one. We've been dealing with quite a few sudden deaths recently, or quite a few. I don't know if to say sudden, but quite a few deaths that have shocked people. People have said, I didn't expect so and so to pass, and everyone is kind of reeling from the impact that this loss is creating. So this morning, to help us navigate this process, how do we deal with grief? What are the things that need to be taken into consideration when dealing with loss? We have on the line with us this morning Pastor Dolph Valerie, and he's no stranger to Health Vibes. He's been on before. Pastor Valerie, good morning to you.
Shalom, good morning. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. It is a pleasure to have you back on the program. I remember you on with us sometime in the past with Carlton and I, and it's just a pleasure to have you back on with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me and for the invitation. I'm looking forward to a wonderful time.
Yes. So Pastor, it's a time. I mean, we started the program, of course, talking about Hermia Joseph of Jolly's Pharmacy and the loss of that life and what she meant, to the Jolly's family, what she meant, of course, to her friends, to her family, and every human being is prone or is likely to experience that loss of someone that they love, and being thrown into the throes of what will I do now this person is no longer here, who will I speak to, or who will I confide in, how am I going to move on? So Pastor, I really want to engage you this morning on this aspect of how do we deal best with loss. What can we do?
I like the question. And first of all, our condolences to the family, friends, the immediate family, and the extended family as far as the Jolly family of the deceased. And just pray comfort and the strength of the Lord unto you all as you go through this. Your question is a very interesting one in that it hits the nail on the head. It acknowledges that everyone deals with grief. But your question, I like this summarization of it. How do we best deal with grief? First of all, to say that there are some people that they deal with it in not so healthy ways. And it is a normal pattern process of the human experience that we go through, being that we are connected to people. We came into this earth connected to people. We have a mother, father, at least the least if you're a single child, the only child I met. But grief itself has stages and phases. Again, just as each person is different and each relationship and the loss is different, it affects the person that is grieving in different ways. So the way that it would affect someone, a family member who may not be as close to the deceased as another family member, you would find that it would affect them in two different ways. And then there is the aspect of even gender differences that could also play out as far as how person deal with grief. Again, based on their emotional health, their mental health, what condition, what state of being this grief meets them in, similarly to um, one one immunization, if it is high and the flu comes around, then you find that you have a better capability to stand against the flu and not succumb to it. Similarly, if one is of emotional and mental and spiritual health, where the person is living a, so to speak, balanced life, and that grief hits, it is going to affect the person, but maybe not as bad or as hard as someone who may be not as healthy emotionally, spiritually, mentally,
Mhm.
and so on. But there are different processes through the grief stages. I mentioned about the gender differences, for example. Um, we all know that it is generally known and accepted that ladies speak, talk more than men.
Yes.
Right. And my wife and I usually address this when we deal with couples in relationship because we deal with those a lot. It could be marriages or just relationships. And when we do like a couple Fridays ago, we were in a seminar we were invited to, and that's one of the things that came up, the gender difference in dealing with certain things, and one of them is communication. And you find that if a lady has a challenge that needs sorting out, she does not have a resolution as yet. Her go-to tool for dealing with that is talking it out. And she would maybe talk about this situation and maybe talk about it again and repeat it even to the same person. And there it is, you have a man, maybe as a listener, and he was wired to solve challenges, to fix things as the Mr. Fixer, so to speak. So when he comes with the challenge, he puts on his fixes cap and he is ready in solution mode. And sometimes it happens even with me that even before you finish the story, you figure out what the challenge is, what the issue is, and you have the advice and
What can
the
you do?
and yes, man, you're
Hmm.
ready to say, okay, you don't need to continue talking. This is what I suspect, and this is what you should do.
Hmm.
Go fix it. And that sometimes is not what the lady needs. She needs a listening ear. She needs an opportunity to point out, to get it off her chest. And I say to the husband and the man in the relationship, in moments like this, you need to listen first with your face. And there is a technical response you need to develop. And it is something like this. Hmm, aha, really? Hmm. All they need is that little affirmation that you are still present in the conversation. You do not need explanation or advice and on all that stuff. And she would go on and speak and speak and speak. And then all of a sudden she might say, but maybe I can do this, or maybe that can be done as a solution. And it comes out of her. And at the end of the process, she's like, oh, thank you so much. You're such a big help. I really enjoyed talking to you. You give so much great advice. Da, 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 da. And not realizing what she needed was a listening ear, someone to help her connect emotionally and to give that attention to. For the man, it is something different. The man having a challenge, wanting to having someone to deal with something, it could be emotional, mental, financial, whatever the challenge is, he being wired to fix things first comes to this situation wondering, how am I going to fix this? And he's going to need some space to get into what I call his man cave, where he can be isolated for some time, because the lady trying to be a support to him going through this would want to bring her best tool forward, which is, let's talk about it. But if he has no ideas, no solution in mind as yet, there literally is nothing to talk about. And to try to corner him to talk and say, even emotional blackmail, you're shutting me off and you're not talking to me, you're not open up to me. Well, if he hasn't had a solution, one or two in mind, there really is nothing to talk about. It's not that he's trying to shut you out. So you just need to give him that space. You need to give him that time. And after he has one or two possible solutions, then he can say, well, mom, or sis, or sweetheart, or my dear, this is what I'm thinking of concerning the situation that we're dealing with. What are your thoughts on it? Now he has something to bring to the table. He has something to talk about. Before that, there's nothing to talk about, literally. So in trying to force him to talk before time will not be healthy, because it will aggravate him more and will push him further. Similarly, with handling grief, the female might need that time to just talk, maybe about how things were between that person that has passed, and how things, the plans they had, experiences they had, and different things of that nature. And just to connect with other people in the grief process and to articulate things, to get things off the chest, off the emotion, off the mind. And the man, don't expect him to respond that same way. He's going to internalize that process first and go through that with that gender difference. Now, this is not to exclude the general process of grief management or of grief itself. As we know that first stage in many cases of grief is the denial. I cannot believe that person. I just talked to that person. We had plans to do this. No, you're joking with me. And maybe they might call somebody else to verify, or go check up or call the person's phone to see whether or not that person is really gone, and so on. So that denial is usually the first part of the process of grief. And then all of a sudden you find that it moves to another stage and it may proceed to anger, where sometimes you find it that the person might be angry with the person that has left, they left. I cannot believe you left me in that condition, and it would be speaking to, like, the person is there, listening to them, and they would be sharing their displeasure of what just happened, and so on. And even with that, sometimes that ends up in a conversation with the Lord as well. A person is a faith-based person who believes in prayer and praise and so on, then you find that would lead to expression of that anger even to the Lord. And I believe it is a good place to go with your anger, to go to the Lord, to tell him exactly how you feel. As a matter of fact, he knows how you feel already, and he can handle it. I remember I was at a funeral. Well, it wasn't a funeral. I responded to a sudden death at a hospital, and there were several persons around. And the brother of the deceased, he was, expressing himself, and he was like, out loud, everybody's there, and he was like, why, God, why? I mean, why not me? He was better than me. And if you have to take somebody, why not take me instead? And so on. After this man has done all this, involved in ministry and preaching and helping people and all that stuff, and you do that to him, and because that to happen to him and whatnot. And then a few persons were kind of raising their voice at him, trying to tell, oh, don't talk like that and take it easier. And I had to step in kind of aggressively and stop them. Say, no, allow him to express his emotions, especially he's doing it to the Lord. You think God cannot handle it? Of course, Yahweh can handle it. He knows our hearts. He knows our thoughts. So it's a matter of being able to handle that anger in a positive way.
But
And
Pastor,
pray. Yeah.
Pastor, you're bringing up something that I really wanted to kind of ask you about, and I believe the last time you were here, we had some sort of discussion around this, but it's a good time to bring it back up. This anger that you're mentioning people might feel and might want to lash out sometimes, and we've heard it often. People want to lash out at their belief, their faith, their God. They want to or start to question that faith. Why would God allow this to happen? Or this is just terrible that this person was so young, or this person was so promising, and their life was lost. So my question is, in that regard, in terms of dealing with loss and dealing with grief, how do we reconcile this sort of anger or questioning that we may have of God that we can experience during this time? How can we reconcile that to still being, Christians or believers? How can we go through that aspect of it?
All right. Very good question. And the first thing is to understand, number one, the Lord knows you. He created you, and He knows exactly everything about you. He knows everything about the situation that you're facing, that you're dealing with. And He invites us. It's not an intrusion. It's not a disrespect. He invites us to reason with Him, to communicate with Him. So He expects that, number one.
Mm-hmm.
That we would open up to Him in that way. And it's not to be, what they would say, to be pious, but to use the nice, pleasing, fancy words just because it sounds nice and it sounds like a nice prayer, so to speak. But to be honest with the Lord, to be blunt, and to be open with Him. It starts with that nature of the relationship with Him. And with that, there must be, I believe, some clear understanding of the sovereignty of the Lord. The fact that He is in control, He is in charge. And we have to get to the point where we are willing and able to, at some point, after we've gone through the expression of our emotions to Him, to come back, like even Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane, where He gave His own personal desire, what He would prefer out of the situation that He was facing. He said, Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. And He agonized over it. And the scripture tells us that it was such a great agony that His sweat was so condensed, it was so thick, like it was sweat of blood. And at the end of the process, He came to the conclusion and to the place of surrender to the sovereignty of the Lord, and said, nevertheless, not my will, Thy will be done. I do not know it all, You know it all. In that case, for us, it's I do not know it all, You know it all. For Him, it was, nevertheless, Thy will be done. You know that is what the process I have to go through for the salvation of humanity, so Thy will be done. So it must come to that point of where we articulate, we do not cannot hide it or make it so religious, so to speak, and hide our emotions. And then there is an outburst of anger in an uncontrolled, unhealthy way that spills over because of that bitterness. The scripture says in Hebrews that we have to be careful leaves a root of bitterness, springs up within us, and causes offense to those around us. Because even unintentionally, even people that we do love and care for, and we know that they too are grieving, if we do not deal with that anger, that rage, that bitterness, maybe even against the Lord, if we don't deal with it right, we can end up hurting and affecting the ones that are still here, that love us and care for us.
Right.
And then, because one of the things is, some of the anger could be because of regret,
Mm-hmm.
regret of things that could have been done, that should have been done, kindnesses that was withheld, or ill treatment, or I cannot believe the last thing I said to her was, oh, forget you, I don't care about you.
Right. Something
That's the
hurtful.
last thing,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Something hurtful. So all this can be part of the root of the anger that comes into that situation, and regret and bitterness. Because sometimes you see people cry at funerals and at the burial ground, and you have no idea why they cry.
Mhm.
You might
Mhm.
assume it's one thing and it's another. For example, this lady was crying from the time the lady died, and then in the church she was crying so loud, almost disrupting the service. At the funeral site, at the burial site, she was bawling her head off, and then finally she blurted out, "Ah, I can't believe it. You left, and you don't pay me the money you owe me."
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So again, sometimes we never know the reasons why people cry, but and crying is another way of expressing and dealing and handling
Yes.
the grief, the emotion. Is not allowing it to stay buckled in. In You have to let it out. You have to allow your emotions to come through. And if you need to, if it comes out suddenly as an outburst in the presence of other people, sometimes because other people do not know what to do or can do nothing to
Mhm.
help you in that moment, the natural response that comes is, "Oh, take it easy, stop crying, it's okay, stop crying." I'm like, "No, cry."
Allow the person to cry. But Pastor, we have a call coming in. Let's take this call.
Yes.
Okay, we seem to have lost the caller, but let me just give the numbers to our listeners. I know people may
Sure.
want to interact. Our numbers, of course, 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, and 616-4257. If you want to call us from the overseas line, on the overseas line, it's 305-432-9624. I believe our caller is trying again. Let's take this call. Caller, good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, it's true. Because that happened to me. My best friend was sick and she was going over St. Helena morning. And she died over there. And I wasn't crying because of my best friend died. I cried for my morning. I cannot get it. It's so true. It's not a lie. Sometimes you see people crying and you don't know what the person is crying for. But I was crying deep down in my heart.
Yeah, the caller seems to have been cut off. But Pastor, yes, so she's affirming what you've said. But Pastor, you mentioned regret, and I wanted to zone in on that a bit, because sometimes we're talking about dealing with loss, dealing with the sense of grief. But what about us, the living, and how do we prepare for loss and to not experience that sort of regret? That's another angle I wanted to take. But I see we have another caller. Let me take this call and then we'll get back to that. Caller, good morning. Good morning. Okay, so yes, Pastor, that sense of regret that you may feel, somebody may feel at the death of someone, the loss of someone that they love, for something not done or something done poorly towards that person. how, as the living, the people left behind, how do we ensure how can we live to ensure that this sense of regret is not the dominant feeling that we have when we lose our loved ones?
All right, great question. One of the things is to appreciate, to be thankful, to
Mm-hmm.
express courtesy and kindness to one another, to not take people for granted. You love someone, don't love them. I mean, a family member, don't love them undercover. Don't have them guessing or wondering if you appreciate them, if you love them. Sharing. Do not use what we call when we do premarital guidance. Sharing withholds. Don't hold back what you should be sharing. Um, be open. Be honest, and celebrate one another. Encourage one another. Understand that life is not just fragile. It is brief.
Mm-hmm.
The journey is not that long. So, and we never know how long we have with those that are on the journey with us. We may go at any time. They may go at any time. So we should do our best to do the most we can with each opportunity. Don't procrastinate. Don't put things off that can be done for and with the person. If you have an opportunity to bless the person, don't wait until um, you see a need. Don't wait until necessarily the person asks, but share that love, show that love. I think these are some of the things that will help to minimize the regret. That at the end of the day, sometimes even in the situation of taking care of loved ones that are sick or not fully able to help themselves, that are what is called what people call handicapped and so on. To do it with a good attitude, do it with a grateful attitude that I get to do this for this person. That boy, I have to do this, I have to do that, and it's a burden, it's a chore, it's a weight on you emotionally, mentally. No, do it as a privilege you get
Mm-hmm.
to serve somebody that cannot do what you get to do for them and with them. So all these so at the end of the day, when that time comes that they have transitioned from this life into the eternal life, then you will be able to say that, one thing I know for sure, I did my best.
Right.
I did all that I could, and I thank the Lord for the opportunity. And even if that person cannot repay you, or even if that person does not acknowledge the value that you are bringing to them, and the person may not even be grateful. Um, Sometimes you deal with persons, and it's a kind of touchy area for a lot of people, where you have to take care of elderly parents who are senile, who their presence of mind is not there, or their memory is
Mm-hmm.
not there, and it seems like you get no appreciation and so on. Just make up your mind not to expect it.
Yeah, do it for yeah. Not,
Right. Just
mm-hmm.
make up your mind not to expect it. There was a terminology, a little phrase I coined to myself as a teenager to help myself deal with people and situations, and that is this: he who expects not is not disappointed.
Hmm. Pa- yes, Pastor, let's take this. Caller is calling in. Let's take this call. Caller, good
Yeah.
morning.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm just calling to send out my condolences to Carlton Lando and the entire staff of Jolly, the free stores of Jolly's, especially the one at Funko, the mega store. That's
Mm-hmm.
a constant shopper. That's if you read of Funko. My
Okay.
condolences going to her and her family and the entire staff of Jolly. I know Homia very well because when I used to come Roseau, she used to help me with my puzzle book in the career house by Up. So I just want to say again, my condolences go on to all your staff.
Thank you, caller. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes, Pastor. So
right.
your
So
your
this was,
your term, your phrase, do
oh yes,
repeat it. Do
he who expects not is
ah,
not
he who
disappointed.
expects not is not disappointed. Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
so if I don't expect you to buy me a lollipop when you go Roseau,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot be disappointed you did not bring me a lollipop because I was not expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
If you do bring it, wow, that's a nice surprise.
Yes, you're grateful. Yes,
you know.
yes.
So I'll just mention that briefly in the sense of being kind and courteous and nice and doing the best you can while you can,
Mm-hmm.
for even those that are unable to show the appreciation or even to express it, be it for whatever attitude or mental reason.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we say, oh, that person has presence of mind and they know well what they're doing. We keep it wicked. They could say thank you, whatever. But you do not know what a handicap emotionally that person has been living with all their life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that caused them unable to really give you what you would be expecting. But when you serve with genuine love, do what you do, not expecting to get something out of it.
Pastor,
So,
I really like that. It's something, a sentiment we've expressed here before on the show, and it's one that I hope, our listeners can embrace. I see our lines are going, so let me take a few calls.
so
Caller, good morning. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Lando and co.
Mr. Lando has left studio, but I'm here. I'm sure he's listening though, but good morning.
Well, I would like to extend my condolence to the Josie family
Mm-hmm.
and to all the staff of Jolly, and also to her brother, Desmond Josie from Montfort. I would like to extend my condolence.
Thank
I
you.
had known Homia very well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I seen her smile right now.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
So my deepest condolence. I'm coming from Montfort.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Do we have okay? So yeah, so condolences coming in for Hermia. As we just reflect this morning, Pastor Valerie is vibes about dealing with loss and dealing with grief. And Pastor, you mentioned something a while ago about the length of the journey, which is life. And not knowing, nobody knows, what length of journey they will have, but it's short. We can admit, we always say life is short, and we do sometimes in life's journey or along life's journey believe we have an abundance of time. It can be because of our age. We say we're young, or so and so, or my family members live for long years, so I have time. And in having that sort of mindset, maybe not thinking about death. I've heard another pastor say at a funeral, death is this appointment that we have. Everybody has. That's the one appointment everybody has, but nobody knows, what time is that appointment. So Pastor, I wanted to just have for us to have a discussion now on this preparing, not for the loss of someone else, but preparing as a human being who knows that your life is not infinity on earth. You are going to have that appointment, and it's inevitable. So preparing spiritually, preparing mentally, preparing, what should we be doing?
all right. A great question again. That is an awesome,
Mm-hmm.
excellent question. Um, Death sometimes, and for some people it does. For some people, it's like it's been so frequent that they get a sense of numbness to the gravity of life and the seriousness that they themselves have to go through that passage. But to prepare for it, one, there is a spiritual aspect that needs to be done. There is the mental, emotional aspect that needs to be done. There is the legal aspect that needs to be done as well. Um, Part of it is that, let me just deal with the spiritual aspect first. Um, so if we short of time, then I've not covered that part. That's my main responsibility. Uh, so one needs to understand that the scripture declares in Psalm 130, 139, I believe. It's a passage that we love to speak of concerning ourselves, that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and that my soul know it well. And speaking of the uniqueness of our who we are persons who are designed like 1 in 6 million, and there's no one even before birth and even after birth, and so on. And to understand that, one needs to be able to understand, even in that passage, if you read further along, it says, before I was born, before I was formed in my mother's womb, in the darkness of my mother's womb, you knew everything about me. Every moment of my life was written in your book, meaning that there is a purpose, a destiny, an assignment on each of our lives. And being on earth, we are here to fulfill that purpose. It's like, I put it like this, a job description. So Jollies have an opening, and they have an opening for someone to come in and do a particular thing or set of things. And they wrote out the job description. And before hiring the person, they would scrutinize that person in view of that job description. That is what you came into the company to fulfill. And imagine that person is fulfilling that job description and doing extra things that they see that needs to be done. All that is good and well. But then when you start to leave what you were hired to do and only start doing what you want to do, then the company is going to have a challenge with you, because somebody is going to pull you up on it, as far as saying, hey, this is not in your job description, and your job description is being neglected. So they would call you up and they would say to you, you need to pull up yourself in fulfilling your job description. And after certain verbal warnings, then they will get some written warnings. And after, if it persists, then you will get your termination letter. Now, just imagine if the Lord were to use that same process with us on earth, that He brought us on earth to fulfill a particular assignment. But many times we get so busy, caught up doing other things, pleasing ourselves, thinking that life is for our glory, for our pleasure, for our enjoyment, and not to fulfill the purpose of the Lord. And fulfilling the purpose of the Lord has pleasure and enjoyment in it. So one needs to set their life, first of all, to know what their purpose, their calling is. And sometimes we start at a disadvantage, because sometimes you may have a parent who try to live their dreams and their life vicariously for their children, and they try to impose their vision and their mission and their purpose, their destiny on their children. Sometimes some look at their children as their social security system, that that is what you were born for, to take care of me in my old age, and so on. So all this sometimes can start us at a disadvantage. But at some point, there needs to be a realization that there is purpose for each and every life on the earth, according to the author of life, the one who created us. And we are to find out from what it is about. And the best place and person to find it from is the creator, the manufacturer, the one who has the purpose in mind and the best method and means of accomplishing that. That's why many times when things are manufactured, it comes with an owner's manual and comes with a guarantee. It tells you how to best get the best use out of what it is that it was created for. So we need to connect with the Lord, and that's why we need to have a relationship with the Creator, so that we can be able to discover and also get His direction in how to best fulfill that purpose. So having a relationship with the Lord is not just about being religious. It's not about just going to churches, or not about denomination. It's about, just like the fish cannot survive and thrive to fulfill its purpose out of the water, and the birds cannot thrive out of the air, cannot go live in water. It's designed for the air. We too need to connect with our Creator at that level for us to be able to fulfill our purpose and our destiny. So that is one aspect of it. So that is a way of preparing, knowing that I was sent on earth to do this, and yes, I need to be doing that. The second part is prepare for eternity, is the other part. So not just on earth, but for eternity. Understanding that the scripture declares, after it is appointed, the same appointment you're talking about, unto man once to die, but after death is the judgment. There's not a time for repentance after that. And it's a matter of one making that preparation, because there's no time and place for repentance after death. So it is for one to make sure that they have their election and their calling right with the Lord, that they have received the gift of eternal life. And I put it this way: imagine you have your family, say husband, children, and you went out, you're working, and you bought the groceries, you prepared the meal for the entire family. But this one family member decides that they're not going to eat out of spite, out of wickedness. It's not that these things that they're allergic to or they do not like, they're accustomed of eating. They just decide to be mischievous and stubborn and refuse to eat. And for days, you're coaxing, you're begging, you're pleading, you're begging it, and that person would not take. And that person is of age, that person knows right from wrong, that person is a responsible person. And you find, say, on the fourth day, that person fails because of, not eating, not drinking, nothing. Whose fault is it? Is it your fault as a parent? Would you say it's your fault as a parent?
No.
Why not? Don't you love that child?
Yes. you do, but you know the choice is being made by the person.
Exactly. And similarly for salvation, the Lord created, designed salvation through the death of His Son Jesus Christ, make provision for eternal life for everyone on earth. But the last step that you could not do for that child was to eat that food and that child get the nourishment. That's impossible. You could not do that. That child had to eat, it had to get into that child's body, and for it to get stimulated to give health, nutrition, strength, and so on to that child. Similarly, the Lord provided salvation, a way of escape because of the penalty of sin. The consequence of sin is death, and that death is explained in Revelation chapter 20 from verse 9 going down to 15, and that is the lake of fire, eternal death. But in contrast, in balance of the wages of sin is death, eternal death, the gift of God is eternal life. So one would has a choice now. We do not have a choice being born on our way to hell, but we have a choice whether we remain and continue. Understanding in Ephesians chapter 8, chapter 2, 8 and 9, it says, "For by grace are we saved through faith. It is not of works that any man can boast." So it's not going to church. It's not being good, a good neighbor, helping, being a nice child or a nice parent. None of these things can attribute to our salvation. A matter of fact, in Revelation chapter 20 and verse 15, the last part says, apart from the books that will be open, where the book of record, where we'll be judged for all what we do on earth, there comes my job scenario again. I come back to it in a brief while. When it comes to escaping the lake of fire, the last part says, and whosoever name was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So one would need to have received the gift of life, eternal life, while on earth of his own free accord, as a gift in preparation spiritually for death.
Mm.
Because after death, there is no opportunity to obtain that again. Now, remember we talked about the job description?
Yes.
And in Psalms 139, we said that before I was born, every day of my life, every moment was recorded in your book. Now, the angels are recording right now everything that we are going through on earth. An account, a record is being made. And I believe that apart from good and bad that will be judged for at the end of time, we will also be judged based on that job description that was referred to in Psalm 139, and the book of records will be brought together. Let me see if you actually did what I sent you
Your
to
work.
do.
Your work. Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if they match up and you fulfill your purpose, your destiny,
Mm-hmm.
then there's a possibility of saying, good job, well done. You
Yes.
understand? So, but as far as determining one's eternal destiny, understand again, each person is going to live forever. The question is where.
That is indeed that is indeed the major question.
Exactly. So
Yes.
it's either going to be smoking or non-smoking.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Pastor, we have run out of time. We have to wrap up. I really appreciate your intervention here this morning on this show, and the wisdom and the knowledge that you shared, and the perception of how to deal with grief and some of the nuances that come up with that whole topic. We could discuss it for so much longer.
Not so much longer.
For so
But
much longer.
if I may just to mention the three other phases,
Mm-hmm.
the two other phases, that is bargaining. We talked a bit about that, but not in reference to the loss.
Mm-hmm.
The bargaining many times, especially if the person is in a critical condition before the death, and it becomes obvious that it might end up in death.
Mm-hmm.
That person might end up trying to bargain with God. Lord, please take that person and I will do this.
Right.
It's like a foxhole commitment, so that's the thing. And then depression might set in,
Mm-hmm.
and then acceptance. Even with the depression, sometimes while the loss is recent, you might find you have a lot of support, people present at the moment. Maybe family members travel, they come, funeral and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And then a few weeks after,
it's
like
silence.
everybody goes at
Mm-hmm.
the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just left with that emptiness and that loneliness, and depression is very easy to set in at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where one would need to consciously being aware of that, to expose themselves to other people, to open themselves, to be around other people. Don't stay in isolation.
Yes.
So I just wanted to
Yes.
mention that quickly. And then time does not heal by itself, but with time, we get over things better.
Mm-hmm.
And the pain is not going to last forever. We have to keep that in mind, that it's not going to last forever. It's not always going to be feeling that bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that.
Pastor Valerie, thank you so much. As I said, for joining me here this morning on Health Vibes, and thank you. I do hope in the future we will have you in studio in person. Of course, we did it virtually this morning, but I do hope
Yeah,
that we can have an in studio connection once again. But thank you so much for your time
looking
this
forward
morning.
to it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I pray that each and every one going through grief may not be because of this loss from the Jolly's pharmacy, but the personal grief that you may be going through. I pray the strength and the grace of the Lord unto you, because that is where we can get the strength that we need to sustain us as we go through these times and these processes of grief.
Thank you.
Don't make the Lord your enemy at this time. You need him as a friend.
You definitely do. Thank you, Pastor. And I look forward to, sometime in the future, we linking up once again. Thank you.
Definitely. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yes. So this morning here on Health Vibes, we spoke about dealing with grief and dealing with loss, and Pastor Valerie so ably assisted us in this conversation, helping us to understand how to acknowledge the pain and express grief, express the feelings that you may have. And of course, he did mention that people can experience it in different ways. There are some gender differences in how we experience and express grief. But giving yourself that permission to feel and acknowledging your pain and, dealing with the process. And so, we have a lot of people who are experiencing a sense of loss currently. We, of course, have the loss of Hermia Joseph of Jolly's Pharmacy, but other families are also experiencing loss. There have been quite a few people who have lost their lives recently, and we express condolences and sympathies to everybody who may be experiencing that grief that we've been speaking about on this program. As I wrap up here this morning, we do have at Jolly's some two things I wanted to just mention coming up on March 7th and 8th at JP Mega. The Shepreneurs Hop On Hop Off bus tour will be stopping off at JP Mega. So that's for the female, in recognition of female entrepreneurship. And of course, on Friday, it is International Women's Day. That's Friday, March 8th. So on the 7th and the 8th, the Shepreneurs Hop On Hop Off Shop and Stop bus tour, which is organized by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. It will be stopping off at JP Mega, and all the products that Jolly's manufacturing produces will be available for that tour on those 2 days. And of course, to just remind our listeners about the 5K run. Last week we spoke a lot about the 5K run. It's on April 27th. That's a Saturday, and we are accepting registration for the 5K run. All the Jolly's pharmacies, the registration forms are available. Register for $25. The causes that are being supported in this 5K run are diabetes and sickle cell anemia. So if you want to support the Diabetes Association, you can register and indicate that. If you want to support the Dominica Sickle Cell Anemia Association, you can also register and indicate that that is the cause that you are supporting. So these are two major things coming up through Jolly's Pharmacy that you can take note of. But that is it for us this morning on Health Vibes. Thank you to all our listeners, our callers. I see people are calling, but it is time to wrap up. I do wish everyone a very good and happy Wednesday. And even if you may be experiencing life's challenges and dealing with grief, as we have spoken about on today's show, that you can find some aspect of living and life that you can be grateful for today. So as I sign off, I just want to wish you all the best, and until next week, when God willing we'll be back on here for Health Vibes. See you next time.
Who say health cannot have vibes? Well, Jolly's Pharmacy is proving you otherwise. With Health Vibes, every Wednesday morning on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Health Vibes, education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lango with co-hosts Jacinta Fagan Defoe and Trudy Kristen. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together every Wednesday, so be sure to tune in. Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
The time is brought